Hey James, how are you? How are you?
Hi, Cam. Just had to unmute. I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Good. So here we are. This is a new season for Tunnel Talk, and I wanted to kind of take off from where we last talked about. It was about a year or so, maybe less, and we were talking about the AI and the Borg and the automatrons and different things like that. And and then I wanted to go talk about the new season and some of the guests we might have, and then kind of what things that we want to cover. Um, so let's get started. So we were talking about the AI, and from listening to some of the other podcasts, is it true? Is it your belief that the artificial intelligence it stems from a different timeline, and it kind of reaches down into all the different dimensions, and it kind of extracts data, and it kind of just feeds it like a big octopus, like a big head. And then the more data and data, the more this virtual reality can exist. And do you think that when you talk about the Borg or the AI or the beast, do you think that that's what they're preparing for, that AI timeline, is to kind of live in that virtual reality that we've been building?
That's a very good question with some key data points. The thing about the octopus, that's a whole nother story. As far as the I see it as an aspect of the demiurge of the Wetico, hive mind parasite virus, as it's been called, the hive mind parasite virus. And mystics and psychics I've worked with have seen it, so called, with a etheric third eye vision. And what they saw was these dark, not necessarily dark in light tone, but negative energy tendrils uh, bursting forth from the galactic core of every galaxy, right? In our
Yeah.
universe, this
Hmm.
darkness that's uh, spreading out in every direction once it enters into the galactic core. And the ultimate ceremony of just about every culture on Earth harkens back to a time before this happened, a time, a golden era before the Wetico arrived, before the Demiurge arrived. And the intention is to one day get back to that golden era uh, way of living stage and somehow do away with this Wetico, right? So the AI to me is an aspect of this Wetico, this Luciferian ghost in the machine spirit entity. And it permeates all living things just about in one form or another, and it transcends time and dimensions. I believe that there are higher dimensions where, in higher spiritual planes, that the Wetico AI has not gotten to yet, right? But its intention, it's voracious. Its intention is to eventually subvert and subdue every dimension and every plane of existence. So, our work is cut out for us to prevent that from happening, because it's not only a responsibility to somehow ensure enough humans survive all of this to so we can go back to the stars, but I mean, it does no good to save this planet and the rest of the cosmos gets subjugated by this AI.
Um, so all of the aluminums and the other nanoparticles and the other things that are induced into us, is kind of like more and more hardware uh, that we've taken in, and the more we get linked up, and like they said, like people are saying that it is a decision for if somebody, maybe somebody wants to do that, but the rest of us, we want to stay organic in nature so that we can um, go. We're all here at this time to help the planet ascend, and the people that want to ascend, which is part of the process of star seeds being here and things like that. And with the contract or the purpose of clearing the negativity, vibrating high, and staying as organic and clean as pure as possible for this galactic event that we're all here for. So, which leads me into this next topic, which it's really a pressing matter at this time, is this solar flash that's coming. We did talk about it a little bit yesterday when we had our chat, and I also referred you to Carrie Cassidy with her guest, Ismael Perez, I think that was. And the viewers that are out there, if you want to, look on the Tunnel Talk page. And by the way, I've changed Midnight Gypsy's page over to Tunnel Talk. But if you want to look on there, I posted the video with Carrie Cassidy and Ismael Perez. And right at the beginning, he's describing that solar event. It's a solar flash. And, that's kind of one of the things that we'll be touching base on as we move through this podcast and then other episodes. I did want to try to get some guests to come on to help us, talk about a lot of these different topics. But did you have anything that you want to say about the solar flash? What you got from it?
Yes, I've heard of some of the traditions and lores that Ismail was talking about on the Carrie Cassidy show, about how it's foretold that at some point there's going to be some event from our sun which will help to essentially upgrade us, infuse us with so much photonic energy and other forms of energy that we can't help but be enhanced in some way at a molecular, cellular level, atomic level even. The DNA somehow being activated. And that's not far-fetched, because we see the inverse of that when people get exposed to too much ionizing radiation. The mutations could last multiple generations. So we know that high energy flux can cause mutations of one sort or another, beneficial or negative. And we've heard over time, and I've spoken about this in the past, about physicists on Earth being alarmed over the fact that, because they're reductionists and they think of everything in terms of particles and subatomic particles, et cetera, they postulated that there was some kind of new particle hitherto undiscovered that was being emitted from the sun, which was causing what mainstream scientists call the fabric of reality to change, time to speed up, and the fundamental constants changing, and they attributed it to some unknown particle being emitted from the sun. Now, this is like probably 10 years ago, thereabouts, by now, that this information started coming out, and then all these articles, largely mainstream scientific articles, began disappearing from the internet, right? I was fortunate that I managed to get forwarded to me, an article, but I'd be darned if I could find it now. An article about this very subject, about how a new particle seemed to be coming out of the sun that was speeding things up, and it was changing reality as we understand it. Whether the solar flash is part and parcel of this thing that I just described. And there was also talk in the past about, because of the plane of the ecliptic, the 26,000 year thereabouts journey that we're all on, eventually we come in alignment with the galactic core. There's a number of factors at play, and it's interesting how there seems to be two versions or two perspectives on this. If one looks at the Ed Dames solar kill shot is the term that he and his team used, of Earth being in alignment with the sun, and we're hit with a solar flare, and that basically causes the end of civilization as we know it. There's that perspective. And then there's the perspective that Ismail Perez and others are talking about, that a solar flash will occur, which will tend to upgrade us and do away with this, in the process, do away with the system of control we have here. So we have two versions of, perhaps, I'm not saying it's the case, two versions or perspectives or spins on potentially the same event. Right? So I think that that's an interesting dichotomy at work. Now, as far as the kill shot aspect of this, we've seen even in cinema, TV, in Netflix, and other shows. I can't remember what channel the Maze Runner series is on, but it's a story about what is essentially a solar kill shot emanating from the sun, pretty much destroying civilization. There's a small elite left in their walled cities, and they still have technology. They still have a functioning society, but they consider themselves elite, and they walk around with masks in the streets, which is interesting. This is a show going back several years now, and there are groups of kids who somehow survive this, living in the wild, and they're tracking down these kids because they feel these kids have some kind of immunity, because in the process of wiping out civilization, the solar flare also created a worldwide pandemic. Where did you hear that before, right? Most of the people died off, and those that didn't split into two camps. These survivors that I just mentioned, and also these vampiric zombies. Okay, where did we hear that concept, right? So, point of relevance is that is a negative take on the solar flash / solar flare scenario, which is buttressed by Ed Dames and his team, the kill shot. Now, as far as the kill shot is concerned, yes, that is a possibility that cannot be written off as a zero probability, because I've seen videos and imagery of Planet X and the sun blowing out a massive CME in the direction of Planet X, and then the Soho Space Observatory just managed to catch in profile how the plasma blast illuminated the Planet X system, right? Point being is, if we're in alignment right behind Planet X and the sun reacts to Planet X and blows out this huge discharge, well, that could cause the end of civilization here on Earth. So I'm not downplaying the possibility of a kill shot as described by Ed Dames and his team. And on the other hand, and I don't want to sound too minded about this, I'm just looking at it from different perspectives. Does the potential exist that some kind of beneficial solar event can tend to upgrade humanity, or what's left of it? Yes, I see that as a potential as well. So there may be two different things going on: the solar flash that Ismail Perez talks about, and the kill shot that Ed Dames and his team talk about. They may not be the same event. And then we have issues like we've heard a lot of people talk, especially around the turn of the century, about the photon belt, going into the photon belt, and that in itself having a beneficial effect on us as far as upgrading us, enhancing our consciousness, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of things at play here, and it's an exciting time to be alive. I think that we just need to be mentally, physically, spiritually prepared for, whichever of the two possibilities, we experience going down, going forward. So those are just my thoughts on it.
Well, that's kind of a build-up and a kind of an explanation for what people have been trying to figure out. So We've also had people come forward with this looking glass technology where they were able to remote view into the future, and they see this blast of light, and then they don't really see anything after. But then it's come to find out they actually saw two timelines, one where it was going to be AI, and the other one where it's going to be like heaven on earth. And so we have the two factions trying to create events to maneuver us in one way or the other. And so we're trying to stay in the organic route, and go with the timeline that's going to help us ascend and live in harmony with each other, and get away from this Borg timeline where it's a virtual reality, and where our consciousnesses are kind of extracted and put into these robot type things. And maybe some people want that. Like I said, maybe people don't. But then as we move forward, and the more research and the more trying to dig deeper for information, I've managed to find some good sources now. Linda Good McGillis is one of them. Like I said, she also is warning about this solar event that could be happening soon. And you and I had talked about it, and I kind of based it on where it's a blast of light, which will be like a blasting of the outer layers, almost like an onion, where you'd peel off the outer layers of an onion, and you'd get in the more pure part of the inside, which is truly more of who you are at the core. I see the light as a peeling away of the outer layers of everything, that you're going to see this third dimensional reality. They've kept us on a good versus bad. They've kept us on a dark light fighting. So when this solar event is supposed to happen, it's supposed to kind of clear away that 3D reality or overlay, and kind of put us back into unity, where we're more balanced, and we're more as one. So they predict that it is coming for sure. It happens every 25,000 years. The Mayan calendar will kind of let you know how many times we've done this. This solar event was supposed to happen in 2012, but because of the calendars being messed up, this event's supposed to happen any time now, any day up until 2024. So this is really going to be one of the topics I want to focus on future episodes. And so I don't want to just keep dwelling away at that. But people should do your research. Go ahead and look at looking glass, timelines. Do your research on timelines. Do your research on the AI and things like this. I also wanted to kind of touch base on holographic universe, or the holographic environment that we seem to be in, which I'll go ahead and let you speak on that.
Well, of course, Michael Talbot wrote the great book, The Holographic Universe, and many scientists, physicists, and other people who are interested in this subject have postulated the notion that we are living in a hologram, a vast hologram. But I think the possibility exists we live in a way of a hologram or holograms within holograms. There's the greater hologram of the universe, the cosmos, and then within it, these marauding, parasitic, negative ETs and interdimensionals have created for essentially captive subject populations a hologram within a hologram. This matrix that we're talking about, this matrix of control, this grid system, which seems to hold so many people in a hypnotic state, in a somnambulant sleep state where they can't seem to wake up. Hold on. Could you pause?
Okay, so that's James Bartley. He is in Australia. It's like 6 a.m. and he's got some things to do. But moving forward a little bit, this is going to be my new season. This is part one of, or episode one of my new Tunnel Talk. I've basically took almost the whole year off of doing podcasts, and I did some other projects. I had some other fun stuff to do, but now I'm ready to jump on into the swing of things again. James has agreed to be my special guest today, and if you go find James, you can find him at the Switchboard.com, and he's been around doing this kind of work since the early 2000s, right? You started your work.
Actually, I've been in the field for, since about 1990, and over 30 years by now. But as far as on the speaking circuit, actually, I started giving lectures in the 90s, late 90s. Now I think about it. So 90s, and really kicked in a high gear in the 2000s. So yeah, I've been in this field for quite a while, and I've had the benefit of interacting and networking with some of the greats in our field: Barbara Bartley, Dr. Carla Turner, Evie Lorgan, and a number of others. Some of them have since passed away, but they left this tremendous legacy that we can draw knowledge and understanding from.
Did their research consist mostly of aliens, UFOs, abductions? What actually was your main focus when you first started?
Well, the emphasis has always been on alien abductions, UFOs, the military connection, reptilians. So I've always focused on those areas, and from there developed an understanding of somewhat of an understanding of AI, all these different control systems, the multi-dimensional multiverse. So it's been quite an education, and a lot of it seems to be remembering or relearning what I'd already known coming into this incarnation. A lot of this stuff is kind of wiped from our conscious memory. Then we have to remember it. We have to reacquire it. So it's been a process of learning on the one hand, but also remembering and reacquiring information.
Mm-hmm. This is very, very true. So some people, not everybody, had signed up to come down here to help, as some of us, signed up for. That's why, one of the reasons why I take this really serious, and so do you. And then moving forward from the Barbara and Carla, you started doing kind of your own thing and doing conferences. And you, when did you actually open your Cosmic Switchboard webpage?
Well, it's probably. I'm kind of embarrassed. I don't know the exact date, but it's been at least 4, probably going on 5 years by now. We've started to amass quite an extensive archive. So yeah, we've been doing this for some time, and I'm fortunate that we've been able to get a lot of good information out and interview some great guests. Recently, I had Larry Warren on, one of the great original whistleblowers from in fact, the original whistleblower from the Bentwater is Rendlesham Forest series of incidences in England at an American tactical nuclear air base. So that was quite a milestone. And over the years, we've had other great guests: Jorge Martin from Puerto Rico, Jim Goodall, world-class expert on the stealth fighter SR-71 nuclear submarines, but he developed a number of sources in Area 51, and he knew Bob Lazar before Bob Lazar even worked at S4. So had Jim Goodall on a couple of times, and he provided fantastic information. So we've made an effort with the Cosmic Switchboard, and the website is thecosmicswitchboard.com, to get the kind of information that will really push the level of understanding forward, to really raise the bar, if you will. we want the hardcore information at the Cosmic Switchboard show that not everyone is prepared to receive. Quite frankly, a lot of people, I wouldn't say they have their limitations, but there's certain types of information that they're not willing or really happy to accept, right? Because it kind of conflicts with their happy notions of what's really going on. So we feel that you put the hardcore information out there, you let the people figure it out for themselves, whether to accept it or reject it, or if it deserves more research. So that's pretty much been our stance with the Cosmic Switchboard show.
Yeah, I want to suggest anyone that is curious or just getting started out with this kind of information to jump on over to the cosmicswitchboard.com and view some of their archives, some of their articles, some of their interviews and things like that. I hope to get some guests on here. I know you had mentioned some names. Is there anyone that you want to go ahead and let the viewers know where we might expect?
Well, I can't make promises on behalf of any future guests, because I have to,
Yes,
get their permission. I don't want to put their names around, but there's definitely some people that I have in mind. I'll ask certain people that I think would love to come on your show.
I actually have some people that I want to try to get on here too, and a couple of I'm going to try, right? So one of the persons I want to get on is Sandra DeRoy, and she's been working with the basis, and she's a filmmaker, and she's got some very interesting connections and some information that I would love to share with others. Another person is Jessie Saboter. If you look her up, Jessie Saboter, starts with a CZ. Saboter. Couple of other people. I wanted to get David Nino Rodriguez. I want him on here talking about Boolean and things like that. So I'm going to take the next 2 weeks off and kind of develop a guest list. And between me and James, we'll be trying to get some people invited over here so we can get this tunnel talk. Let's give it a blast off. But before we still have, James, some time. I didn't want to keep you over an hour because I know you're busy over there. I wanted to go into the layered reality. We had talked about the layered reality, and we also talked about false trails of information. The false trails of information, I believe, they're giving you a little bit of truth, and then they're adding their own agenda so that people can either go this way or that way with it, whatever they resonate with. And I want to encourage people to really look within and see what resonates with your soul. It might not be either way. It might not be either path. It might just be sitting in your own center and, letting things come to you or things like that. Is there anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, see, nowadays you hear the term controlled opposition all the time. People just fling that smear at anyone that they disagree with or who they don't understand. Just because someone doesn't believe in something, understand something, never heard about something, doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that they never heard about something, don't believe in something, don't understand something. That's all that means, right? And if I played that game, I could do the same thing. Oh, anyone who doesn't believe in reptilians, they're controlled opposition. Of course, that's a silly mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Because all people, myself included, we have limitations. We have limitations as far as understanding, perceptual awareness, also what we brought with us in our morphogenetic field, in our genetic memory, in our soul memory, despite the best efforts of the controllers of wiping past/parallel incarnational experiences from our conscious memory. There's still a lot of bleed through, right? So someone, and also for those who've had paranormal type experiences, uh, experienced a lot of phenomena in their life, be it alien abductions, alien encounters, interdimensional experiences, time slip experiences, ghostly hauntings, phenomena, etc. Those people tend to have a different level of perception of understanding anyway, right? But what's happened is the control system has managed to compartmentalize everything. You hear people in uh, the cryptid field or the UFO field saying, well, our cryptids or Bigfoot, Sasquatch, are they part of the UFO phenomena? And then you have people in the cryptid community wondering if there's any connection to uh, UFOs or other mysteries on Earth. Well, of course they're all connected. It's the same planet. How could they not be all connected in some way, right? From an energetic perspective, and this ties back into what we were talking about with the sun, the plasma nature of the sun, its influence on us. I mean, just to digress for a second, the efforts that they're going at chemtrailing and creating global dimming, essentially, uh, it's just reducing the amount of photons that even make it to ground level, penetrate into our skin, and have a beneficial effect on us. That has been radically reduced by this genetic, rather geoengineering, so-called. So it's being done for a number of reasons. We were talking about a layered reality, right? So even within our field, people create compartments and layers of information where if they don't have a certain level of understanding, and then they just label someone else controlled opposition, but they have their own limitations and can't see the folly of that. So, I mean, that's why I say I could play the same game. Or anyone who doesn't believe in alien abductions or believe in the reptilian overlordship, they're controlled opposition. But of course, that's silly because a lot of these people just are not at that level, right? Uh, can they be a hindrance to research? Can they get in the way? Can they be a negative influencer? Absolutely. And so, from the overall scheme of things, who are they really working for? Uh, if not on a conscious level, on an unconscious or subconscious level, are they doing their part to ensure human freedom, or are they in some way hindering that effort at human freedom? So, I mean, it's one thing to have one's own biases and beliefs and theories, but when one goes out of their way to negatively influence people in subjects which, quite frankly, they're ignorant of or have a preconceived bias against, then they start falling into the category of a hindrance and a negative influence, right? Call them controlled opposition, call them a useful idiot, right? So I'm getting back to the point of the layers and the concept of the hologram within the holograms, right? Uh, and I spoke about this yesterday. This happened to a good friend of mine, my lab buddy. He actually saw, okay, you remember how we were talking about being in a theater and then you see the beam of light from the projector on, that goes over the heads of the spectators onto the viewing screen? Well, he was laying in bed and he was in this dream where, and it was probably more than a dream at some level. I wouldn't say his consciousness or his astral soul matrix was captured or detained, but he was in a very involved dream where he thought he was at the beach, right? So then he came to a level of awareness, perceptual awareness, where he saw with his etheric third eye vision, right above his bed, what he perceived to be some kind of uh, projector, lack of a better term, device, which was projecting out this false reality of being on a beach. And then he was able to see through that and realize this is essentially like an alien um, stage scene, alien stage set, like a Hollywood set, right? And then he actually started seeing the ETs too that were behind this. And then when they realized that he could see the projector that was creating this illusion, that had somehow pulled him into what we used to call, and still call, a stage manager's dream. When they realized he'd made that adjustment and was able to see through it, then they tried to shun him back into the illusion by trying to muck with his awareness and try to amp up, intensify the power of that projector thingy, right? Well, it didn't work, right? They tried to put him back in the beach scenario, and this time there was a bunch of people there, and seemed to be about to engage in a big mass beach orgy, because ETs, being what they are, activate the sexual arousal mechanism, and people get all locked up in the R complex at that point, and just carry through with these sexual urges, right? That's what they were hoping would happen to him, right? They try this stuff with abductees all the time. Well, it didn't work. I mean, he saw all these people start to engage in sex on the fake beach, but he didn't go along with it because he realized it was all a scam. Point of relevance is that's an example of an illusion, a hologram, if you will, within the greater hologram, right? So we're talking about layers and layers. It's like, we have the surface of the ocean, and then these different layers of densities of water, thermocline, and get down to the ocean bed, the seafloor, right? So there's layers and levels of density. And these ETs, some of them, they seem to have the ability to create, certainly in the sleep state, astral dreamscape, manipulation, stage managed dreams, et cetera, because it's all, between, a lot of it is not all, but a lot of it is between the ears. It's within our own minds, and a lot of these entities, a lot of times not even using technology, just the ability that they have to alter their density and enter into us in a sleep state. They take over our astral dreamscape from within. Okay, that's just one example. So then you start adding on the holographic technology on top of that. Yes, we're talking layers and layers, and just peeling away it's like the skin of an onion, the skins of an onion, just layer after layer after layer, eventually get down to our core kernel, or core essence of self, right? Because it always comes down to an understanding of ourselves, and then our connection to the greater multiverse. So they've done everything possible to separate us from an understanding of our true core selves, our oversoul, if you will. So I think that's a big part of this challenge, the struggle, is remembering who we are, and that takes time. It takes a lot of work, a lot of shadow work, and I'm definitely a work in progress.
Right. And I like that you said shadow work, because a lot of people, they go through times in their life where they've had a lot of trials and tribulations, and grief, sadness, whatever, loss. And then they find the other side of the coin aspect, where they're love and light, and no, I don't want any more sadness, no more grief. I just want to stay in this little, bubble right now. But you know what? I gotta say that a lot of the you call them dark nights of the soul, or when things happen to you, you spend time alone, really soul searching, forgiving, and coming back to a place of love. Always coming back to a place of love. And a lot of times that has to, you have to change your expectations of people. You have a lot of inner work to do, where you can come out on the other end whole again. And so no, we don't want to avoid those dark places, because that's where we grow the most. And so that might be a form of shadow work. And then when you come out the other side, embrace it. If you see situations where you can now help others to embrace those situations, instead of just shying away from it. It's all humanity. We're all human, and we're all going through this. And so that's a really beautiful part of this shadow work, that I don't want people to shy away from that. One of the things that they were talking about when the solar flash comes is to having a very pure heart. And I'm going to have Marco Misinato come back on here, and he talks a lot about it a lot, about having a pure heart. And so when the energy comes in, it's going to burn out all of that poison and the toxins and the hardware and the nanos. it's going to burn that out. But instead of frying you now, wouldn't it be better to be cleansed, eat raw foods, organic, drink lots of pure water, no medicines, so that you're already a pure vessel, and your heart's pure, and you're not holding on to anger or resentment, so that when the light comes in, you're already free. Where you can now absorb the information and the coding that's coming in, so that you can actually do upgrades because your body's so pure. So when they're trying to warn against people that are very toxic, get with somebody and get yourself pure. And if you need help with that, let me know. Right? Wouldn't that be part of the shadow work and trying to get through to that pure state that we all should be in?
We have what's been described as our undiluted, non-distorted original source code, to use a computer term. I mean, not even thinking in terms of linear terms of countless incarnations and different star systems, different densities, different dimensions. The original core self that I guess we can't help but think of linear terms being in this flat field, lineal, moment by moment time zone we're in, right? But the original non-distorted source code that essentially preceded all these past parallel incarnations, right? I think that the effort at some level is to, as much as possible, go back to that original source code of infinite energetic expression and wisdom, and not necessarily be confined. I mean, we take on humanoid form, we take on the physical form in the various densities for learning, for understanding, for dealing with conflict, etc., etc. But our core essential selves, if you will, is this higher dimensional energy that has our consciousness and within our morphogenetic field has all of our memories, all of our wisdom, understanding from all of our incarnations simultaneously. And what's happened is this source code has been contaminated, if you will, by so many add-ons, so many malware
Yes.
right? So this is why so many people are really detached or detuned from an understanding, even on a normal moment-by-moment basis here on the surface, an understanding of their true self. As so many people, sadly, are in this hypnagogic kind of somnambulant sleep state, if you will. They're just acting out these programmed, installed creeds, ideologies, beliefs, behaviors. So many people are acting out a computer program. David Icke talks about the mind-body computer, and he's absolutely right. They've shunted us long before they started instituting all this AI nanotechnology, infusing it into countless people. They'd already made big-time inroads into turning us into Borg through digital devices, through indoctrination, and through cutting us, or as much as possible, separating us from an understanding of our true essence, right? So I think the one of the things that I know I'd like to do is, as much as possible, reacquire that original source code, if you will, and because we shouldn't be confined to one particular planet. This is an extreme example of planetary confinement, where only the elite are allowed to leave and go places, and we have to keep coming back here over and over and over. Every time we come back, the world is a harsher, more controlled place. And that there's nothing organic or natural about that. Everything run by corporations, everything increasingly run by bots and AI and what have you. So I believe that as time goes on, we will still have the means to break away from this timeline they're preparing for us. But it's going to take a lot of work. And And it's absolutely essential that we separate ourselves at some level from toxic, Wedico, demiurge infused people. However well-meaning we may be wanting to help everyone, some people will just drag us down into the muck with them, and that's not what we need right now. We need to break away as much as possible from this control system. And unfortunately, these people that have come under this Wedico hive mind virus, they've been described as non-participating characters, but that's kind of a misnomer because they reinforce the system. They're force multipliers for their system. Just ignorance and apathy alone reinforces and strengthens this matrix of control. So, I mean, we can be amongst them, we can interact with them, we can be cordial with them, even help them on occasion. But as far as, and I don't say this in an elitist sense, I mean this in an energetic, spiritual sense. If we allow ourselves to be dragged down into all the conflict, misery, and confusion of the masses, that's really going to be a huge distraction going forward.
Yeah, and that makes total sense too. So I think one of the main things that I wanted to point out was the judging and the judging of it. Like you can walk away from it, or you can enlist in it and let it drag you down. But we there's different ways to deal with things like that. So that's definitely going to be one of our topics of conversation, is how to muck your way through this moving forward. A lot of different topics that I want to bring up in some of the future episodes, like the veil and who created it. Very interesting. If you want to go back to the Solomon Temple, they had the women there that were actually weaving the veil and things like that, and it very well could be a frequency fence that once the solar flash comes, that it just blasts through that. So there's a lot of different ways to look at what's happening to us. So the pure heart, time travel I wanted to get into. Jumping out of your body at sleep is another thing that I wanted to get out of, get into. But definitely this is going to wrap up our first, our pre-episode with you and I. And I know that you can't be an official host per se, but I want to invite you to jump on and come in here as much as possible and talk about things. Bring your guests, I'll bring my guests, and then we'll just go from there. Is there anything else that you wanted to say? We actually have a few minutes, 5 minutes, if there's something else that comes to mind that you want to talk about.
Well, yes, thank you for sharing that. I'm looking forward to coming back as a guest to discuss these key issues again. When we were talking earlier about the layers and the holograms within the holograms, I'm reminded of that TV series Stargate SG1, which first showed up on Showtime and then wound up in the Sci-Fi Channel, and it's syndicated. It's all over the place now if you can find it. But
what's it called one more time?
Stargate SG1, and it was based on the movie Stargate with I forget the Kurt Russell, and others. Anyway, in the TV series, there was an episode when the Stargate SG1 team was captured. They went to explore an alien planet, and they were captured by this guy that was like the game warden, right? And what he did was he stuck each team member into like a pod or a capsule, and they stuck these hoses to their heads or something, and then they made them live this, or believe they were living this fake life in which they were free, exploring other planets, going about their day-to-day activities, etc., right? But really, they were stuck in these pods, and they were being made to live the simulated fake life while they were essentially kind of in suspended animation almost, right? And then there was another show, the spin-off from Stargate SG1 was Stargate Atlantis. And in one of their episodes, it was called Aurora because there was a ship that was commanded by the ancients, this race of super advanced humans, right? And the enemy of the of everyone basically in that galaxy was the Wraith, and they commandeered this ship, the Aurora, and they forced all of the crew members into these pods, and then they pumped in this fake reality into each one of them, making them think they were still in control of the ship, piloting it, but they weren't. They were just floating around, flying around in space. But there was one Wraith that was actually in control of the whole ship, and all the ancients on board, their bodies had already withered away. Without the life support pods they were in, they'd be dead, and they're just forced to live this, fake life. And I think about the album "Who's Next," written by Pete Townsend, the guitarist of the Who, and "Who's Next." The story was based on the Lifehouse Project, so-called. And what Lifehouse referred to was a futuristic time when people lived, in Townsend's words, pretend lives, when they're in these pods once again. And this whole fake reality simulation is pumped into their brains, and they're pretty much in stasis in these pods, but they're thinking they're living a real life, but they're not really. And I think all that are perfect metaphors for what's going on with the human race at various levels, at various stages. Because everyone, the person next to you on the street, essentially they're in their own reality. Right? You can look up and see a chemtrail being formed above you, but the person next to you can't for some reason. So essentially, we already see that division occurring, where we're just not we're perceiving things that others should be perceiving but are not. So essentially, they're already in this pod, and to some level, at some extent, we're kind of in a pod too, just at a higher level that we're trying to break out of, right? So, keep all that in mind, because the mind and the soul are infinite, and it expands in every direction all the time, and they've gone to such efforts to limit us and to control us. In a variety of ways, incarnation after incarnation. They must really fear us if they're going to go to all this trouble. So that's one thing we can take comfort in, that we know that we are infinite beings, and eventually we will break out of this prison matrix.
Yeah, and if you go back to the 3-minute trailer I posted yesterday, in the beginning it says, we didn't come here to lose. We came down here to win this battle. And I believe that, it just needs 10% or so of us getting awakened, and then it'll be like we'll create our own shockwave, okay? And we'll just awaken people in an instance, and then maybe we bring on the solar flash. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of different things to think about. If you can open your mind and your heart to what resonates with you. We want to bring some really good guests, and we really want to dive into the serious stuff now with Tunnel Talk. And I'm going to go ahead and let you go, James. I know you have stuff to do, and that's been about an hour for now. And I just want everyone to know I'm going to try to come on here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Every Wednesday at 1 p.m. If James can join me, that's great. Anyone else? I want to have panels of discussions, and I just really want to get serious about this and put this information out. And again, thank you so much for being here with me and supporting my work as I support yours as well. And let's wrap this thing up. James, have a great day today.
You too, and thank you so much for the help you've given me when I was over there. Invaluable help, and please give my regards to the crew over there too. Love and appreciate it.
I sure will. Give my love to your wonderful wife and your amazing son, James. And don't hang up yet. I'm going to end the broadcast, and then we'll chat for just another minute. All right, everyone, peace out. Have a great day and we'll see you next time on Tunnel Talk.